Well, hello there. Hey everyone. It's Toots again, and I'm here playing Minecraft after about 7 or 8 years. I started playing on this two-person SMP with a friend about 8 or 9 months ago, and I got, as you can see, totally sucked back into it. I hadn't played since 1.8, so I was pretty pumped to see all the new mobs, items, biomes, especially the lush caves. So this is my base on my two-person server. Give me a shout if you'd like to get a proper world tour, but there's something special I wanted to show you today. It is my item sorter. Inventory management in this game is honestly still kind of a nightmare. Shulker boxes definitely help, but if you're anything like me, returning from a mining or farming trip leaves you with an inventory that looks like this. So for one, I wanted to make a sort of no-hassle item sorter that takes every item type, so stackables, non-stackables, and shulkers. So let's pack this stuff up using a quick shulker loader and dump it off so that we can take a look at the chests. So the first thing you'll probably notice walking in right off the bat is that there are two different double chest sections, this top and bottom. The top corresponds to category sorting. So each column here corresponds to a different category. We can open up and take a look at the redstone category, as well as the various stone block category. And on the bottom section, we have bulk sorting and bulk storage with shulkers. So you can just open up and take a look here, take a look at the dried kelp blocks and sugarcane. So personally, this is all the storage I need. We have overflow on the left side here that handles non-stackables and anything that doesn't get collected or sorted by the system. And to the left of that, we can see shulker pickup. But the main